Angel, good morning. And good morning, Anupam Prabhu, in tech support for Adi's Bhajans. Angel, good morning. Arjuna Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Bhakti Center, Pujari Crew. Vasudev Prabhu, good morning. Gitanjali Megan, good morning to you. Hemangi, good morning. Henry Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Jamuna Jai and Hanumanji are here. Jason Prabhu, good morning. Good morning, Kartik. Nayana Manjari, good morning. Good morning, Pat. Good morning, Preeti. Good morning, Sharita Mason. Susan, good morning. Suzanne, good morning. Yogeshwari, good morning. Kishore Chandra Das is here, good morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's another day, it's Ekadashi. So a little less Maya, a little more Krishna. Nothing in, nothing else. That's a joke. Okay, Achyuta Gopi, I'm done. So let me start recording.
Recording in progress.
And live stream, and the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Jai. All glories to our association of devotees that keeps us going. Fresh back from India, literally just hours ago. So still feeling, I don't think I felt culture shock. I don't feel culture shock about India. I feel culture shock about America. But I'm so happy to be back with all of you. See all my friends, all your beautiful faces. Well, actually, 3 of your beautiful faces. So please feel free, if you are brave enough to turn your camera on. It's a wonderful, exciting Ekadashi. What a wonderful time and what a wonderful day to pick up all of our blessings. Anybody ever play video games? You get Mario, you have to go collect all the golden coins. That's what Ekadashi is like for us. We're just kind of like, going along on our little board game, in our little mission. And our mission, should we choose to accept it, is to pick up all of those golden coins that are just waiting for us, ready. So we'll dive into all the sweetness. But first, our Mangalacharna. Om Ajnanatirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. So I was kind of wondering what I would speak about, and yesterday I asked my sister, which often happens. Sometimes I'll just ask my family members, I'm like, what do you think? And she said, it was like no hesitation. It was almost like she had already been like formulating in her mind. She said, Gopal Bhatta Goswami. I said, okay. I mean, we've done a few sessions on Gopal Bhatta Goswami, but we'll do another one. And then I looked and I realized that yesterday was the appearance day of Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur. So we have to give a little praise and a little credit. And then we'll speak about some other Vaishnavas. So today's discussion kind of falls under the heading of Compassionate Krishna Understands Our Desires. So we'll talk about all the ways in which our compassionate bestie, understands all of our desires. Right? Because we find ourselves with so many unlimited desires, isn't it? The more you try to get rid of them, the more of them you have. And then we wind up wondering, am I a bad jiva for having desires? Anybody ever feel like, the main goal is you see all of these elevated Vaishnavas and it seems as though they have no desires, right? Pure devotees, they don't pray for anything, they don't need anything, they don't desire anything, they're completely fine and self-satisfied. And then here I am, not self-satisfied. I'm completely unsatisfied in the self. I'm trying to get there, but not there yet. And I have so many desires. So what happens? What does our Krishna do for people like us? So we can talk about all the many ways that Krishna understands our desires and how compassionate he is in fulfilling them. So Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur is none other than the celebrated author of Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat. Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat we have been speaking from for so long, whether you've realized it or not. So many of the stories of our Vaishnavacharyas come from Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat or Bhakti Ratnakar, or so many of these wonderful Vaishnav literatures. So Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat discusses the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu up until we're about sannyas, where Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes sannyas. And then after that, he kind of leaves it to Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami to expound upon in our Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So these books are essential for our lives. So essential. Srila Prabhupada says that the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu give us the specific example of the person Bhagavat. We have the literary Bhagavat in Bhagavatam, but then what does that look like? And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself, he says, as Krishna said, abandon everything and just surrender unto me. But I didn't show them what that would look like. And if anyone has ever dealt with children, the thing is, you can tell them, but then somehow or other you always have to give them a step by step. You have to show them the whole thing. And so Mahaprabhu, in all of his kind, compassionate nature, decides, well, I'll show them what surrender looks like, what full-blown surrender in bhakti yoga looks like. And so then we have all of these wonderful, wonderful accounts of his life and pastimes. And we have them illuminated by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur. So we owe such a great debt of gratitude. Today's going to be one of those days where we talk about the debt of gratitude. But luckily, we can try and repay that debt of gratitude by picking up those golden coins on Ekadashi, because otherwise our funds are deficient. We're missing a lot. So now we move on to Gopal Bhatta Goswami. Gopal Bhatta Goswami met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as a very young boy. He happens to be the son of a Sri Vaishnav called Venkata Bhatta, and he is the nephew of Prabodhananda Saraswati. From his uncle Prabodhananda Saraswati, he learned so many things: rhetoric, poetry, Vedantas, philosophy, all kinds of things. He became such a scholar. But at 7, around the time of the monsoon, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu makes his way into South India. And he meets with Venkata Bhatta, who was one of the leading priests and acharyas, right? Leading teachers of the time. And when Venkata Bhatta sees this very unusual sannyasi, because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was quite unusual. He took sannyas when he was about 24, but he was so beautiful, so golden, so wonderful, so effulgent. And then he was doing all of these unprecedented things. Right? Back then, all of the ways that you showed your affection to the Lord were very formal, especially in South India. Very formal. Prayers were said quite formally. Prayers were said with special incantate, like in voice, how do you, the tonations in your voice when you have to
Intonation?
Which one?
Intonation?
Yeah, intonation. That's the one. Thank you. So special intonations, and if you got it wrong, it's like they were really like, who even are you? How can you even begin to glorify the Lord without the proper intonation? See, like right now, you know, that slip would have shown just how much less intelligence I had at the moment. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu kind of flipped bhakti on its head, revolutionized the entire thing. Kirtan was not kirtan, not like this. Not with him singing and dancing through the streets, not with him bringing all of these prayers outside of the temple and giving them to everyone, anyone. Didn't matter. Men, women, lepers, Brahmins, Jagai Madai, others, right? So, like, you know, nobody was sitting there telling, like, murderers, come, chant this holy name. You know, free yourself and open up your heart. No one was giving them the qualification to continue their devotional lives. And not only continue their devotional lives, but elevate it. So the reason that we have Bhakti Yoga the way we have it today, with so many cultural places like the Bhakti Center, we owe so much to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We would not have this kirtan. I would not have this kirtan. We would not have this philosophy the way we have it without Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he arrives in South India. Venkatabhatta is immediately entranced by this golden sannyasi. He says, can you come to my home? And they would have so many different discussions. And so many times over the next 4 months, because what happens is when it floods, no one travels. Because traveling was done on foot. And traveling was done, you know, everything is close to the ground. So at that point, there was no traveling through the flooding and the monsoons. It just didn't make any sense. So sannyasis, even traveling pilgrims, they would stay in one place for 4 months. So as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stayed with Venkatabhatta and his family, they had so many discussions on bhakti, according to the Sri Vaishnava tradition and the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. And so they'd have so many different conversations. And Venkatabhatta, being a Sri Vaishnava, this is a lineage coming from Lakshmi Devi herself, his mood was in the mood of awe and reverence, this Aishwarya Bhav of Lakshmi Narayan. Finally, they would come to have so many conversations, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would always end it with, so tell me, Venkata, why, if your Lakshmi is so supreme, why is it that she had to go to Vrindavan and then perform tapasya for thousands of years just to gain or try to gain entrance into the rasa dance? And she still hadn't gained it, and she's still doing tapasya today. Why? If she is superior to the gopis, why? And at first, there was some, like, trying to equal out the philosophy. Finally, at the end, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would still bring up that point. Venkatabhatta would eventually say, whatever you say, Mahaprabhu, whatever you desire. He understood that there's no giving any counter philosophy to that. It's true. She did. She is still. I just saw it a couple days ago. There she is. She's quite cute. Really beautiful. But still, everyone, somehow, no matter where they are, no matter what their experience is, they're all flocking to this mystical place of Vrindavan. And so Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was making such a wonderful point. And also for us. It's such a wonderful point because sometimes you ever get a little intoxicated on your own good fortune? I feel like this happens, at least to me as a devotee. You get really intoxicated on my good fortune. And you start thinking, you know, as devotees, we have the best way. And we have the best philosophy. And we have the best pastimes. And eventually it comes to the point we have the best lock on Krishna. And if anybody else is doing anything any other way, they're completely wrong and bogus. And they're nonsense. They really need to come over to our way of doing things. Because, I mean, let's face it. Who else could have God other than us? And what's wonderful about this is it reminds me to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his famous, that third verse of Shikshastakam is a doozy. That being more tolerant than a tree, more humble than a blade of grass. But here's the kicker. The offering all respects to others and not expecting any in return. My Guru Maharaj likes to put the emphasis on the also not expecting respect in return. I feel like, at first, this instruction is like, ooh, that's a tall order. And then it just gets more and more. You're like, wait. Ooh. So I feel like this is with all other paths. I find myself looking at it, how best can I respect this person's journey? Whether it looks the same as mine or different. How best can I respect how this person is worshiping my Lord? Even if that means I have to respect it from afar. That's okay. But how best can I give respect to this particular person's journey? Because even though everyone is flocking to Vrindavan, even though it appears that Lakshmi Devi even is performing tapasya within Vrindavan just to get a glimpse of the rasa dance, still Krishna appears to her. Let's not forget that she's still Lakshmi Devi. Because that's what happens. I start to get intoxicated with my own devotional service, and then I start thinking my position higher than it really is. Even Lakshmi Devi is trying to come and get a glimpse of my Lord. And then that's where the fall begins. And it's a long way down at that point. So I try and caution myself, especially when I hear these things, not to take it as a sign of, oh, look what we've got that's better than them. But I try to take it as a way of saying, wow, look at this mercy. Look at how compassionate our Krishna is. There are people meditating for thousands of years, and my Krishna has somehow seen fit to say, here, without so much endeavor, I will allow you to purchase me fully. You don't have to do tapasya for thousands of years. You don't have to do any of those things. All you have to do is, with a heart filled with sincerity, you just chant my name, even one time sincerely. This is our compassionate Krishna, willing to give us the most secret of things that he doesn't give to anyone, because he knows if I give them that, they can purchase me. Once they purchase me, I'm there wholly and solely, forever. No turning back. We see Narada had to do penance. He wanted to get a glimpse of the rasa dance. He had to become a gopi. Gopeshwar Mahadev, he had to perform penance, and then he had to become a gopi. And then, through the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila Prabhupada, this good fortune just drops into our laps. How amazingly fortunate are we? So that's what I try and pull my aggressive mind away from and towards, right? Away from, oh, look at how much better I have it than someone else, and more towards, look at how fortunate we are. I don't deserve it. I know I definitely don't deserve it. I don't think I did anything to gain the mercy that Lakshmi Devi is still praying for. There was definitely no kind of tapasya that I could have done that was better than hers. This is unconditional mercy. I've done nothing to warrant this. And yet and still my Lord is so compassionate that he's giving it. Dropping it into every single one of our laps, just on the hopes that we might be ready to take it. And so many times we pass it by. So, Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who was just Gopal at the time, 7, he was not willing to let this opportunity pass. When it came time for Mahaprabhu to leave that place, he cried and cried and cried so much that Mahaprabhu agreed to stay a few more days, which was almost impossible to get him to do. Once Mahaprabhu had made up his mind, he was going. But Gopal cried and cried. Finally, Mahaprabhu stayed a few more days. And he revealed a form to Gopal Bhatta that Gopal Bhatta had desired to see most. Gopal had heard that prior to taking sannyas, Mahaprabhu looked so beautiful. Curling locks of hair, dhoti folded in so many places. All the pleats, right? Nice garlands, right? Look at just, okay, just like the most wonderful person in Navadvip. He would go out on kirtan, and he would have so many wonderful pastimes with the inhabitants of Navadvip. And Gopal was so sad that he didn't see that. So in a dreamlike vision, Mahaprabhu reveals to him this kirtan party with Advaita Acharya and Sri Nityananda Prabhu and Mahaprabhu in his Nadia Bihari Vesh, right? His appearance as the darling of Nadia. And so this is the vision that Gopal gets. Gopal, finally, when he awakens from that vision, he tells Mahaprabhu, he says, I want to go with you. And Mahaprabhu takes this little 7-year-old boy and sits him on his lap. He says, you can't come with me now. Stay and take care of your parents. Take care of them well. And after your parents have left their bodies, then you go to Vrindavan. And in Vrindavan, you will meet 2 others, Rupa and Sanatana. They will take care of you and initiate you into the ways of Bhakti Yoga. And then you can serve me forever. No problem. So Gopal does this. He waits until after his parents have left. He goes to Vrindavan. He meets with Rupa and Sanatana, gets initiated into the ways of Bhakti. And at one point, he goes to the Gandaki River near the village of Shalagram. Did anyone know that Shalagram Shilas are named because they come from the Gandaki River near the village of Shalagram? I myself didn't know that until maybe about a few years ago. And then it was kind of like, oh, well, it's one of those aha moments. Makes total sense. So he goes to the Gandaki River, and he was praying to be able to worship the Lord. Praying. And when he went to fill his lota with water, when he went to, fill his lota with water, out came all of these shilas in his container. He looks, he says, well, I shouldn't take shilas from this holy place. So he pours them back in. But every time he fills up his lota with water, the shilas are still there. So finally, what can I do? There were 12 of them. And so he worships his shilas. And then one day, and the story goes in many different ways, but one popular version, one day he had a desire to worship Krishna in a beautiful 3-fold bending form. Right? What does that even look like when we say that? Like everybody says that, right? What does that even mean? 3-fold bending. Right? So Krishna is bent in 3 places. Right? He's bent at the waist, bent at the feet, bent at the neck. It's kind of like he's so crooked, but really sweet. And unprecedented. Right? There are not so many other that express and show this wonderful 3-fold bending form. And so Gopal Bhatta had a desire to worship Krishna. And there was said to be a merchant who came and gave all kinds of valuable cloth and clothing for deity worship. But Gopal only had little round shilas. How? How is he going to worship with all of these paraphernalia? Bhima Prabhu is saying, bending like a dark river. Yes. Wonderfully said. So he has this desire, and now he has all of this paraphernalia. He tries to give it back to the merchant. The merchant won't take it. And so he prays to the Lord, oh my Lord, what can I do? And then he goes to sleep. And then when he wakes up, because he would perform his puja, and then he would go to sleep, and then he wakes up, and he would put his shilas in a basket. He uncovers the basket, and now there are only 11 shilas. And one deity. Very cute deity. Very small deity. Maybe about this big. And he is beautifully formed. Self-manifested. Smooth. And he's curved in 3 places. Little hands, and little arms, and little legs, feet. So adorable. This is the deity of Radharaman, who is worshipped in Vrindavan today. I just saw him a couple days ago. Still adorable. Really cute. So sweet. And he is the darling Prince of Braj. And this is how compassionate our Krishna is. He understands these desires. And so even if you've had a desire and you think, well, I want to worship Krishna, but am I even qualified? How does this work? That hunger is key. That desire, that necessity, that wanting, that yearning is necessary. It is key. Krishna responds to it the most. And sometimes if we don't have it, then he starts putting his devotees in positions to need him, yearn for him, long for him. And so this is the beautiful deity of Radharaman, reciprocating lovingly. And there are so many pastimes of Radharaman. He is so adored all throughout, not only Vrindavan, but the entire world. It is said that this deity is so captivating that it's like taking darshan of all three of the main deities of our Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition all at once. So our Sambandha deity, or the deity of reestablishing our relationship with Krishna, is Madan Mohan. Then we have our Abhideya deity, who is Govinda Dev, who is there to accept and help us perfect our devotional service. And then we have our Prayojana deity, who is Gopinath, who is there to give us the perfection of our devotional service. So, i.e. Gopinath, this Lord of the Gopis, the love of the Gopis, which is the perfection where we're trying to look at that highest pinnacle of love for Krishna. So it is said that he's so captivating that it's like looking at all of them all at once. And so he craftily steals the hearts and minds of devotees. And if you want to take a pilgrimage, even in your mind, my sister was reading to me that even if you take pilgrimage in your mind, half of our sins are completely eradicated. Even just going to holy places in our minds eradicates sins. Imagine, even on Ekadashi, imagine how much this is boosted. So he does have his own like Facebook and Instagram page because he's just that cool. So all you have to do is type in Radharaman on either one of those, and you can take darshan of him, especially on this Ekadashi. Now we have to move on to another Krishna who reciprocates with the desires of the devotees. Let's see. There's a note. Prior to Sri Radharaman manifesting out of the Srila, Gopal Bhatta Goswami was longing to worship his form so much that he was ready to go to a river and drown himself. Indradyumna Maharaj even mentions a detail of Gopal Bhatta Goswami promising that he will tie his 12 Shrilas around his neck and go into the river. Goswami was tested by the Lord on the strength of his transcendental desire and truly proved to have it incredibly strong. Yes, absolutely. And you know, is our desire that strong? Is our desire for anything that strong? Kind of makes us look at what we invest in. There are so many times, and I've had conversations with people, and I've said, well, because they've asked me, they're like, oh, Mataji, I'm working so hard at my job. How do I maintain my spiritual life at the same time? And I've asked them, I said, well, what do you do for your job? Sometimes they're in finance or in corporate life. I say, how many hours do you work? And sometimes 14, 16 hours a day. Their work weeks are incredibly long. And then I ask, well, do you want to do this? Sometimes they think, no. I'm like, well, what is your dream job? And sometimes I would love to open a restaurant for devotees. I would love to. They have so many different things that, I'd love to create, or I'd love to. And then sometimes I ask, well, why don't you? And they say, oh, no, I can't do that. Well, you know, I couldn't take that chance on that. I'm like, but you've taken a chance and a risk on the 14 to 16 hour work days for someone else. Imagine if we poured those 14 to 16 hour days and invested into what your dream was. I'm sure Krishna would reciprocate. So it's worth it to look at what we're investing in and then look at what we truly desire according to our investments. Because Krishna will handle the returns. And when Krishna handles the return on our investment, it is always millions of times greater than we could have ever imagined, than we could have ever hoped for, as we see in the case of Gopal Bhatta Goswami. This deity has changed the lives of millions and millions of souls. How wonderful is our Krishna? So, we have also Radharani is unmanifest there, and one really sweet pastime. Janava Mata came to Vrindavan and started commissioning so many different deities of Radharani to be paired with the different deities of Krishna there, because they would find the deity of Krishna, but not often the deity of Radharani together. So if you see, in a lot of places especially, the deities of Radharani can be quite small, and they're much smaller than the Krishnas sometimes. But that's because they came later, on the order of Janava Mata, the wife of Sri Nityananda Prabhu. So she commissioned a deity to also be made for Radharaman. But one of the most amazing things about him is that his Radharani is unmanifest. He really is the heart-stealing prince for everyone. And so they tried. They installed a Radharani, and every night they would put the deities to rest. And one very wonderfully sweet thing about Bhakti Yoga is when you put the deities to sleep, you put little Radha Krishna in one bed. Really sweet. And sometimes you rock them. It's really nice. But you put them to sleep in one bed. And every morning they would wake up and Radharani would not be in the bed. Sometimes she would be in a far corner of the temple, in a different room. She was never where they left her. And finally they were confounded. They just did not know what to do anymore. And in a dream, to the Pujari and Janava Mata, Radharaman came, and also this deity, and they said, well, you've installed us together, but this Radharani says, I am not Radharani. I am Yogamaya. And so this is my brother. And so it's weird. and the relationship has it's been strange. And for this reason Radharani keeps going to different places. She wouldn't stay in the same place. So finally they decided, okay. And so if you look, there's Radharaman, but there's also an unmanifest Radharani. They worship her in the form of her name, underneath all of the paraphernalia. And that deity, they didn't just cast her away. They made her the Kula deity, or the family deity of all of the worshipping families of Radharaman temple. So she's known as the Kula Devi there. And so a lot of the Kula Devis are expansions of the goddess Parvati or Shakti, or none other than Yogamaya. So this is why she stays unmanifest, especially at that place. A lot of the other temples, the deities accepted their Radharani counterparts, but not Radharaman. So we also have the example of Gadadhar Pandit. Gadadhar Pandit is best friend does not even begin to encompass what Gadadhar Pandit was for Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is expressed by our Vaishnavacharyas that Gadadhar Pandit is none other than Srimati Radharani, but missing some of the bhav. Why missing the bhav? Because Mahaprabhu took it. So simple. But this is the form of Srimati Radharani. So they were the best of friends. So tight-knit, close together. And Gadadhar Pandit was always fond of reciting and chanting Srimad Bhagavatam. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would love to hear Bhagavatam recited by Gadadhar Pandit. And so in Puri, one time, Mahaprabhu was there, and he was feeling such intense longing and separation from Krishna. And he would think, oh Prananath, where are you? Where shall I go now? Having lost your association, what will I do? And he started digging in the earth. And while digging in the earth, he felt the mukut, or the crown, of a murti. And when he pulled this murti out of the earth, because he was in such longing for Krishna, this deity was named Gopinath. And he gives this deity of Gopinath to Gadadhar Pandit. Actually, he asks him, he says, "Oh Gadadhar, this deity is manifest. It's like almost just for you. Do you want it?" And at that point, how do you say no? You can't say no. So he gives the deity to Gadadhar Pandit. And because the deity was found within the earth, within a garden, which in Oriya is called Tota, this deity is called Tota Gopinath. This deity was very tall. And this deity was standing. If anyone sees Tota Gopinath, and I do encourage you all, look up Tota Gopinath. If you see him now, he's sitting. There are external and internal reasons to everything, within and without Chaitanya Lila, but especially within Chaitanya Lila. There are so many external and internal reasons for everything. Why is this deity sitting? The external reason is Gadadhar Pandit was performing puja to this deity every day. And externally, and even my Guru Maharaj says, that he was getting old. Now, when you say that, there are some devotees who then get really, really angry about word choice. How can you say that he's getting old? He's the expansion of Srimati Radharani. How could you say that any of them are getting old? Okay, calm down. Now, internal reason. After Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wound up his pastimes, because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wound up his pastimes at about 48, which would make Gadadhar Pandit 47. After Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wound up his pastimes and left, then it says that rapidly Gadadhar Pandit almost began to just deteriorate out of separation. And he became hunched over. He started to like shrink into himself almost. And so he found it difficult to stand up and perform seva and reach up and pin things on the deity. As a very short person, I understand this problem. And finally, he thought, better that I give the service to someone else. Better that I allow someone else to take over this service. And in a dream, the deity came and said, "Why? I've been enjoying my service from you all this time. I just want you to worship me." And Gadadhar Pandit said, "But my lord, what can I do? I can't even dress you properly anymore." He said, "Don't worry. I'll make myself easily accessible." And then the deity sat down. So this is a very, very rare form of Krishna that we have. You don't ever... How often do you see deities? Just especially if a grown-up Krishna. You've got like a Laddu Krishna. Sometimes he'll be crawling. He's cute, But how often do you see a youthful, older Krishna sitting instead of standing? Still playing a flute, but sitting. Never, isn't it? But now we have Tota Gopinath. And he sits down because he understands the desires of his devotees. This is us. Whether perfect or imperfect. Mostly imperfect. But it doesn't matter how imperfect we are. Krishna is yearning. He is pulling us back, wanting our love. We have countless desires, but Krishna simply desires our love. This is our compassionate Lord, who is always ready to benedict us, ready to, however he can, rope us in closer to him. Ready to give us his shelter, his mercy, his guidance, his kindness. Just always ready and willing. And so this has been such a interesting exploration of, what am I desiring? Am I desiring to somehow or other get closer to Krishna? Or am I desiring somehow just to fulfill my senses, which can never be fulfilled? They can never be said. That Srila Prabhupada has said, so many people have said, it's a tall order. It is like the most horrible. It's like Tantalus, He's got this, all of these things just out of reach. You got a boulder and you're pushing it up, and then just when you're at the top, oh, it falls all the way back down. This is our desires. These are all of our countless things that we think we need, all the things that we think we have or need to have in order to keep going. And brings me to one last Vaishnavacharya that I wanted to speak about today, which this will be the fourth. And that's Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, what was his desire? Just to fulfill the order of his spiritual master? Just to come and give Krishna whenever, wherever, however? To take up this mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of spreading this global Sankirtan movement? These are incredible desires to have. And then such dedication to those desires that at the age of 70, just yesterday, or it might have been the day before yesterday now because I'm on a time warp, but I was thinking, why? Why am I getting on a plane back to New York? Like, I know it has to happen, but why? And then I looked and there was a beautiful picture of Srila Prabhupada, and I thought, because this is the same journey that Srila Prabhupada made. From Vrindavan to New York. This is the journey I have to take in order to remember Srila Prabhupada's mercy. This is the journey I have to take to remember why I am here. Because there would be no me as I know it without Srila Prabhupada and his desire to simply fulfill the order of his spiritual master. In a place where everyone chants Radhe Radhe and Radhe Shyam, I was greeted everywhere with Jai Radhe Govinda. That's a testament to Srila Prabhupada's mercy. In a place where everyone is ready to welcome you with open arms and tell you stories about Krishna, I felt like I got adopted by Brijabasis, and that is Srila Prabhupada's mercy. We are living proof that when pure devotees have these desires, the impossible becomes so incredibly possible. And more. This is Srila Prabhupada's mercy. Coming together on holy days like this. Who of us would have known about an Ekadashi? And even if we had known about an Ekadashi, see, like maybe we were born on the subcontinent, right? And maybe we would have heard about an Ekadashi from our grandmother, right? A grandma. But who would have followed it? And then on top of following it, who would have relished a fasting day? Without Srila Prabhupada's mercy, who would have made a festival out of every day? Who of us would have made the endeavor every 7 a.m. every morning to get up and listen to a podcast on devotional matters? Who is it? Now, I look at some of my family members, and I know my mom would have. But it wouldn't have been bhakti. Who among us would have felt the compassionate embrace of Sri Krishna without Srila Prabhupada? Definitely not me. Just one girl from little villages in Queens, New York. Definitely not me. This is Srila Prabhupada's mercy. Taking that journey from Vrindavan to New York to make new places of pilgrimage. To bring these oases and new holy dawns. So let's take full advantage of all of these different places of pilgrimage that we have. The tree at Tompkins Square Park. All those roads leading to 2nd Avenue. Even right around the corner at the Bhakti Center. Wherever Krishna has manifested himself becomes a yoga peak. Right? Wherever Krishna manifests himself or stays becomes a yoga peak. Imagine if we did parkrun tours just around the Lower East Side. Just look at what Srila Prabhupada's mercy has done in these streets that seem so different than they could be from Vrindavan, but in many ways much the same. The streets here externally look cleaner, but internally everything is cloudy. The streets in Vrindavan may look cloudy, but internally there's such a mindset. Now, what if, we've imported so many things. What if we could import that mindset? This is what Srila Prabhupada came to do. In a strange foreign place, with strange foreign things, with people who did not even, the level of respect is gone, right? As a sadhu, you're used to a certain way of life and everyone gives respect. You come to New York and everything is it's completely different. No one even knows what to make of you. Srila Prabhupada had such a desire that he was chased by a crazy person with a knife. And he didn't leave New York. Me, I think I would have been right back at the dock. When is the next ship? I'm just going to stay here until the ship comes, and then I'm going home. We say, Srila Prabhupada stayed in one room at Radha Damodar temple and prepared for coming to the West. Not until you see that room do you really understand what that means and how little Srila Prabhupada needed externally. Nothing except the darshan of the deities and the blessings of the Goswamis. That's it. There is nothing there. Really, literally, there's just nothing in those rooms. There's nothing there. It's so bare and just small, and I was so impressed by how little my Srila Prabhupada needed. How little he required, but the desires of his heart were so huge, with such vision. And he had such faith in that vision that he made a global movement where all of us can come together and we can experience being in the Holy Dham with one another. All at once, right here, right now. So I want to thank all of you for being with me, for helping me start this Ekadashi, for helping me remember why I'm here. Vaishnav Thakur ki jai, Ekadashi Titi ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Chita Gopi Devi Prabhu and all the acharyas ki jai. Would anyone like to ask a question or reflect on something that Chita Gopi Prabhu was speaking about? Now is the time. Andrea.
Hare Krishna, Chita Gopi Das Prabhu. First, I just want to acknowledge, I think it's so brave for everybody that goes to India and kind of experiences that. And I say that in reflection to myself, because the idea of, it feels overwhelming to me, the idea of going to India. And I know that I hope that someday I can make that journey. But I really love how you ended with the reflection of Srila Prabhupada and us thinking about, like, instead of us being prideful, like us being grateful, and that shift, when you explained that, it was really powerful. And I think of also, I thought that it was only like in New York or in New York City that we had the darshan of the deities and the devotees. But the other day I was talking to my mom, and I was born in Colombia, and my mom, my whole family's in Colombia, and I was telling her about, how if it weren't for Srila Prabhupada, like nobody, like kind of like exactly what you said, it was like we wouldn't know about these things in the West. And she was like, now that I think of it, I remember seeing the devotees with their drums and I just thought that they were from India. I thought they were people from India who were in Colombia, and she was just like, but I didn't understand it, but I thought, look how happy they are. And things of that sort where it's just like, my mother wouldn't have had that darshan and that experience. Even if she didn't understand it, she still had it. You know what I mean? So it's just like, when if we start asking and we start kind of telling people about these things, we start realizing there's just so many other people who would not have had even like this little tiny nugget of mercy, right? So it's just like, thank you for kind of having us think that way. It's just in that gratitude and that mercy.
Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, and they were saying in Sri Chaitanya Bhagavat that the reason that so many of the devotees within Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's time were adventing in so many different places was to make those places places of pilgrimage. And I remember loving that point, because as a person that was born somewhere else, you can kind of feel like a fish out of water, or like an outsider. You can kind of feel like, oh, well, if you haven't been, then, you know, there's like the inside crew, and then you're on the outside. But no, Krishna is showing us, he's like, I've extended my mercy to the farthest corners of the entire earth through devotees. This is Srila Prabhupada, traversing the earth 11 times at the age of 70, and I will still complain about a 15-hour flight. What are we saying? How? You know, I just, and I'm not 70. I'm supposed to be young and fit and go, like, you know, I'm supposed to be like, woohoo, ready to go, and Srila Prabhupada fearlessly. Also, the best way to overcome the overwhelming feeling of like, how would I even ever, just don't think about it. Don't think about it too much. Otherwise, your mind will try and make sense of it, and it will not make sense. It will not make sense at all if you think about it too much. But if you don't think about it and you just do it, it will become the most romantic experience of your life.
I have a reflection. I really like the point that the Srila Prabhupada made in the beginning about how best can I respect and appreciate that devotee. And my aggressive mind, like Srila Prabhupada says, my aggressive mind was, how far away should you be respecting this devotee from? So that's a twisted thinking. So thank you very much for that. And the other point that I liked was how little Srila Prabhupada needed externally. That's a really cool meditation to have. How little Srila Prabhupada needed externally. Really wonderfully said. And look at how much he produced with that little external things that he had. Little recorder. He was chased by a crazy nutcase in New York. Yeah, beautiful. What came of it?
So amazing. I wouldn't have anything. You know, all of my gratitude goes to my spiritual grandfather, who sat and typed first volume of Srimad Bhagavatam with one finger. Just searching out, typing. So this is like patience and diligence and enthusiasm in our devotional service. My spiritual master likes to say that we need patience and enthusiasm in order to progress in Krishna consciousness. This is the emblematic example of that for me. Srila Prabhupada typing our devotional literatures with one finger until he got people to help him. It is so important for us to read it. That's all he wanted. Yeah. He's like, you all just read it. And we're like, well, what if I had it on Audible? What if I could get a Cliff Notes version? What if I could synopsize it? Srila Prabhupada took the time to type it with one finger, and I still, you know, all he wants us to do is read it. And still, my aggressive mind finds ways to resist.
Yeah. And it's also very instructive on how we shouldn't get discouraged if there's a reversal or an obstacle in our service. Don't drop it. Keep going. Patience and enthusiasm. I really like how you put it. Ahoy Tukiya Pratiyata. Service must go on unceasingly, without any motivation, without any, you know, I'm not respected enough. Look how much I'm doing, and where's my return on all the investment? Where's my return? But Srila Gopi Prabhu said, Krishna will take care of the return, right? It's just wonderful to know Krishna knows what's going on, so don't be discouraged and keep going with whatever service you've been given in Lord Chaitanya's movement.
Yeah.
Right? Am I saying it right? Good.
Perfectly right.
Good. Would anyone else like to? Pat, say something oh, Angelica. Hare Krishna, Angelica. Angelica followed by Pat.
Hare Krishna. Is there enough time though? Yeah. Okay. I have 2 points that come to me from a lecture I listened yesterday by Urmila Prabhu. And one, it's like that really sobered me up as I heard it. She was speaking about how true devotional service is serving with joy and never expecting anything in return, which actually is directly what you mentioned. Like, where is my return? Why do people are not giving me credit for what I'm doing or complimenting me on all these things? And when we are in that mindset, it actually is so far away from bhakti. And she gave this example. I haven't been a mother in this lifetime, probably in previous ones, but she gave the example for the first few months, the baby is not even acknowledging the people who are outside of them. And that service of a mother is the closest that we can really understand bhakti, that the mother is actually so absorbed in the service and happy, and she has like no return of that, like no reciprocation whatsoever. So that just brings that to me, and I wanted to share that because I feel like if I really analyze my mindset and my service, I feel like maybe I was in that place twice or less, if ever. So that's a beautiful intention to hold and understanding to come back to. And her second point was about, that reminded me of, it was reminded by me because we were mentioning how Prabhupada was chased by someone with a knife, and then also it reminded me of his transcendental vision. And she was speaking about levels of appreciation or levels of criticism. And at the highest level, first we can even criticize devotees, which even though they are doing so much for the Lord, and truly it's said that if even if we are faulty for the person who is surrendered to Krishna, like they are perfect. But then the highest level of what Prabhupada exhibited is seeing perfection or good qualities even if there are none, because their vision is so transcendental that they can still recognize that this person is a child of Krishna, and so therefore they actually are having good qualities. So these are just repeating what I heard yesterday. Thank you so much.
No, absolutely. And we often say that, it's like seeing the good qualities where there are none. Is there actually truly anyone where there are no good qualities? Well, no, Krishna is in the heart of even the smallest, even the atom. So because Krishna is there must be. There has to be. Wherever Krishna is, there are good qualities. He's the complete form of goodness. So there has to be something. And maybe next Ekadashi we'll take a look at that as we get into appreciating the good qualities of maybe some very antithetical looking people. Because we're gonna get close to Nishringa Chaturdashi. So we'll look at like what does that look like? And as for looking at that, where are my returns? Like I've seen it. I've felt it. It's like, Prabhu, the schedule is nice, but where's my primetime slot? Like, why do you have me singing during lunch? How's this? You're such a nonsense, Prabhu. How is this happening? And whenever I feel that mindset creeping up on me, and then you hear the transcendental clapback, like, you do your service without expectation. It's like, how do I even begin? Because the heart immediately, once you start, then the heart wants something. How do we get to that mindset? I've been trying to work on getting to that mindset by reminding myself that Krishna has preemptively given. Krishna's given so many blessings that my devotional service right now is not an investment to gain returns that he's supposed to give me now. This is a thank you for all of the blessings that he's previously given me. Every day that I wake up, every day that I go to sleep, every day that I've been safe, all the lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes that my Krishna has saved me, this service is gratitude for that. Rather than thinking, okay, I'm doing this now, and then in the future, God will reward me. Which of course he will. But it helps when my mind has to try and not get so in with the desires to think that Krishna's preemptively given. He's been giving causeless mercy that I did not deserve. This service is in gratitude for that. Every time Adipurusha Prabhu went on pause, it was like the happiest moment. That Govardhan Shila that he has as his picture, I could hardly concentrate because his little face was so happy. He looked so happy to see everyone. I was just like, this is adorable. That should be like the waiting picture. So sweet. So next time you come on, you can look for Adipurusha when he cuts his camera off. And look for the little Govardhanji. He's so happy to see you.
Yeah, it's not that we're checking Govardhanji out. Govardhanji is checking us out. Yeah. Okay. All right, it's 8:07. I should have.
Wait,
Thank you
we
very
had
much.
Pat.
We can feel. Huh?
Pat.
Pat. Oh, sure, of course, Pat. Pat, unmute yourself.
I thought I'd get away with it.
No.
I just really want to thank you for showing up every Ekadashi and doing these series. I find them so inspiring, and especially today. And I don't know, maybe because I know you just landed back from Vrindavan. It's like feeling that blessing coming right from you, so right on the screen. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Beautiful. Okay, thanks everyone for tuning in, for keeping your cameras on, for keeping your cameras off, for showing up regularly. This is Srimad Bhagavatam. Today is a special day, Ekadashi, and Srila Gopi gave us a good boost. Preemptively, she's preemptively given us inspiration to remember Krishna throughout this Ekadashi. Govardhanji, the beautiful smile, and yeah, I like how she flipped the plot. It's not an investment. Krishna doesn't owe us anything. He's been given preemptively. I really love that. That's my takeaway for this, I don't know, week or maybe even a month. So thank you very much, Achyuta Gopi. Welcome back to the Holy Land of New York City.
Hey!
Okay. Hare Krishna, bowing down to all of you dear devotees for a wonderful day. Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, love you all, Hare Bol.